Hello there, my demons and ghoulies. My name is Hex, and welcome back. I feel like it's been kind of a while since I did an art video, but instead of this time, where I just sort of ramble on about the process of this art going on in the background, I figured I would do something a little different. You can enjoy the art while I answer some questions. I have a little Q&A going. I went on my Patreon and Twitter and I asked people to ask me questions about anything, really. So I wanted to start with a patron, Lapis. They asked me 3 questions. So I'm going to start with the first one, which was... What is your favorite game of all time and why? And I think I've mentioned what my favorite game is, but I don't think I've ever said exactly why. So my favorite game has to be, I think, Silent Hill 2 or 3. They're kind of getting to like a close tie. It's funny because they're not games I like go and play all the time, but they hold such a special place in my heart, and that's why they're my favorite. It's because when I was a little tot, me and my brother found Silent Hill in my uncle's basement on his PlayStation 2, and we ended up picking up right where he had left off and playing it, and we were so enraptured by this spooky, horrifying game. But seeing all the monsters sort of sparked something in me, and I had been drawing, of course, ever since I was able to hold a pencil, but this game and seeing those monsters was like, I want to do that. I want to make those monsters. You can do that? I want that. And I didn't realize, like, you can make it a career, but I was like, that's me! I had a nightmare that night, actually, from that game. I was so scared, but it was so fun. So I have a lot of special memories with it, and the symbolism and how it was made, and the legacy of the game itself is sort of left behind has been great, and it's got a lot of memories attached to it. If I had to pick a game that I enjoy playing a lot of the time, I think I would have to say I really love Minecraft. I feel like that's a game I will always love and will always play no matter what. Or something like Ooblets too, which is a newer game. It's like Pokemon and a card game all wrapped into one. It's really fun. Go check it out. But then Lapis also asks more questions. And these ones I think are kind of my favorite because they're definitely not typical. So it's, what's your least favorite animal and why? And I had to actually sit and think of this answer before recording. And I really love a lot of animals. I have appreciation for most of them because I think they're so interesting, whether or not I'm scared of them or not. So I had to say I really get kind of skeeved out by like leeches. Because I did have a leech attached to my foot at one point, and I don't like that I didn't know unless I looked. And wharf roaches, which are essentially like cockroaches at the beach. They look like cockroaches, but they're pale. They're like almost white, gray, and they just kind of like skid around. I don't like cockroaches. They're bleh. Bleh. I don't like them. And then, do you have any phobias? If so, what are they? So I have a little bit of a fear of heights. It's even like when I go to the mall and I go to the 2nd floor and I look down, my knees will buckle a little bit because I'm like, what if the floor falls out from under me right now? Which is a silly phobia, I know. And then I have a phobia, a lot more personal of, not necessarily being entirely alone, but I guess like abandoned and forgotten. That like despite trying my hardest, I'll just be like tossed away like some sort of discarded toy, which is, I know, a lot more emotional and kind of sad than I intended it to be, but I gotta answer the question. Next up, someone from Sourcebar Podcast asked, what's your favorite part of the painting process? And I'm not sure, or I guess it's the 2 in 1, because it's what's your favorite part of the painting process and what's the most challenging step from start to finish. So I guess my favorite part of the painting process is sort of the rendering itself. I really like rendering eyes. Metal is a lot of fun too, because it gets like super shiny. It's a little more intricate to sort of realize like where the light is, and then there's a shadow, and then there's like a bounce shadow, and realizing that they all have to be in a certain spot is kind of like, ugh, but it comes out really nice. But doing the eyes and the shadows and the reflections in that is always really chef's kiss. And then the most challenging step from start to finish is actually the start. Coming up with an idea and conceptualizing it, gathering references and getting the composition right is always really tough. It's the thing I struggle with the most, especially because sometimes you just don't have ideas, and that's like that's the whole start of making a piece. So if you don't got ideas, you can't make nothing. And then if I do have an idea, sometimes getting it onto paper in a way that looks close to what I see in my brain is tough, and sometimes it just doesn't work out, and sometimes I have to redo this whole certain section to maybe fit what I can do artistically, realistically, and it sucks to not be able to just be like, print from brain onto paper please, thank you. But it's tough, and I'm working on getting better at it, but it definitely makes me want to just hide under a blanket all day if I can't get it right. And then I think our last question we have is from Galaxy Star Queen on Twitter. What was your inspiration for coming up with Hex, and what was the trickiest part of the design? So the inspiration for coming up with Hex was just making a monster persona, because like I love monsters, I love creatures. We just talked about Silent Hill 2. So I wanted something to represent me but be really monstrous. And the first thing that I had initially done for Hex was make her a dream eater, so something that like hides under your bed or hides in like your dreams and eats them and gives you nightmares and stuff like that, which I still love the idea of. I don't think that there's enough dream eaters out there. But I decided to name her Heximus, which was a name of a very old OC of mine that I was not using anymore. And I really like the name because I think it's pretty unique. But then she sort of morphed into this demon, and then me and my friends started making a whole bunch of lore for this world, and she sort of ended up taking on this whole life of her own, which I still sort of identify her as a persona of mine, but she's also her own thing, which is kind of the best part. And then the trickiest part of her design, I think, had to be probably that outfit, because the hair is similar to how I see mine, and the horns I had drawn up right away, and I was like, ooh yeah, I'd like those. The eyes came in right away. I knew I wanted her to have a key, because I love skeleton keys. If you ever want to get me a gift, get me a skeleton key, please. I will love you forever. But then the outfit, I wanted it to be this weird, not sort of typical clothing that you would see, sort of not professional, but clean. Like, that is a nice looking outfit you got there, but quirky. So I have the pants that Hex wears, the black and white striped Beetlejuice pants. And I don't get to wear them that often, so I was like, if I'm not gonna wear them, she's gonna wear them. And then, I don't know, something about, I can't remember how I came up with the more transparent, like, sheer sleeves, because I think I initially started drawing her with a vest and a shirt underneath, like a button-up shirt, and I didn't like that layered look, but I wanted her arms to be sort of covered, but I wanted you to still see like the gradient, so I messed around with like long sleeves and short sleeves, and then that's how I sort of came up with, well, why not just have them be sheer? Because then she can have long sleeves, have them covered, quote unquote, but you can still see through them. And I feel like I don't see a lot of sheer used with a lot of characters. And then the bow eye was also like, let's just throw on something weird. and I feel like even though I see her wearing a bunch of different stuff, not just this one outfit, I feel like it is quirky and fun and silly, and I'm really happy and pleased with it. But it was such a hassle to try and like nail down, even though it's not basic, but it's also monochromatic. It's blue, black, and white. But she's a bean, I love her very much, and I would be more than willing to, I guess, do like a part 2 or do like a series of these. So if you do have questions at all of any kind, it doesn't have to be related to my characters. It could be related to the art process or about me as an artist, or it could be anything. As long as it's not like super invasive, I'll probably answer it. So if you've got questions, comments, concerns, just leave me a comment down below, or just like at me on Twitter or something. Be like, hey, I got a question for you, because I'll write it down. I'll do another episode later. Maybe, we'll see. If not, I hope you all have a lovely day, night, or evening wherever you are, and do something nice for yourself in the meantime. I'll see you next time. Enjoy the rest of the art. Goodbye. This video was made possible with the support of my patrons. $5 Ghoul shoutout goes to Lapis Dragon 01 and Kelly. Special shoutout goes to my $20 Demon tier patrons, Mimi Chai and Jay Loves. See you guys next time. Bye!